Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SmartSpeak Podcast, where you improve your English while enjoying real conversations about life, success, technology, and the world around us.
That's right. I'm Liam.
And I'm Emma.
Grab your coffee, relax, and let's learn English together in a fun and natural way.
Let's get started. Today, we are diving into a topic that puzzles almost everyone at some point in their lives. We are talking about why rich people think differently. Have you ever wondered if wealth is just about luck or if it actually starts in the mind?
That is a fascinating question, Emma. Many people believe that the wealthy just happen to be born into the right families or win the lottery. But when you look closely at self-made millionaires, you realize that their biggest asset isn't their bank account. It is actually their mindset. They view the world through a completely different lens than the average person.
I totally agree, Liam. It seems like the way they... That brings us to another huge difference in how the wealthy think compared to the rest of the world. It is how they handle risk. Most people are terrified of losing what they have. They prefer comfort and safety above everything else.
Yes, safety feels good, but safety rarely leads to massive success. The average mindset is focused on avoiding loss, while the wealthy mindset is focused on maximizing gains. This doesn't mean rich people are reckless gamblers. In fact, it is quite the opposite. They calculate risks very carefully.
Right. They look at the worst-case scenario and ask themselves, can I survive if this goes wrong? If the answer is yes, and the potential reward is high enough, they take action. They don't let fear paralyze them.
But most people don't realize this. Fear of failure keeps people stuck in jobs they dislike or situations that don't help them grow. They think that avoiding mistakes is the key to a good life. But in reality, avoiding mistakes means avoiding progress.
That reminds me of a short story I read about a young entrepreneur. He lost all his savings on his first business attempt. His friends told him to get a normal, safe job and forget about his dreams. They thought his failure was a sign that he wasn't meant to be successful.
And what did he do? Did he listen to them?
No, he didn't. He looked at that failure as a very expensive tuition fee for his education. He analyzed what went wrong, adjusted his strategy, and started a second business. That second business became a multi-million-dollar company.
That is a classic example. He didn't see failure as an identity. He didn't say, I am a failure. He just said, this attempt failed, but I learned how to do it better next time. That shift in vocabulary is incredibly powerful.
It really is. The words we use define our reality. Wealthy people often use active language, while people who struggle with money tend to use passive language. They might say, things happen to me, whereas a successful person says, I make things happen.
That is so true, Emma. It is the difference between being the driver of your life or just a passenger in the back seat. Passengers just complain about the traffic and the weather. Drivers actually look for a different route to reach their destination.
Speaking of routes, have you noticed how rich people approach problems? When an average person sees a massive problem, they complain and wish it would go away. But when a wealthy thinker sees a problem, they see a business opportunity.
Absolutely. Every major company in the world exists because it solved a specific problem for a specific group of people. Think about ride-sharing apps. The problem was that getting a taxi was inconvenient and expensive. Someone solved that problem and created a billion-dollar industry.
What happened next was unexpected, though. Once those apps became popular, they created new problems, like traffic congestion or the need for food delivery. And guess what? Other entrepreneurs stepped in to solve those new problems too. It is a never-ending cycle of opportunity.
It really proves that wealth flows to the people who provide the most value to society. If you want to increase your income, you have to increase the value you offer. We can't just demand more money for doing the same basic tasks.
Yes, value is the key word here. Many people trade their time for money. They think, If I work 8 hours, I deserve a certain amount of pay. But the wealthy mindset focuses on results, not hours. They ask, what result did I produce today?
That shift from focusing on time to focusing on results is a game changer. Think about an author who writes a book. It might take them 1 year to write it, but if that book helps millions of people, they will earn royalties for the rest of their life. They detached their income from their time.
That is what people call passive income, right? It is the ultimate goal for anyone who wants true financial freedom. It allows you to earn money even when you are sleeping or spending time with your family.
Exactly. But let's be honest, building passive income requires a lot of active effort in the beginning. You have to build the system before the system can support you. This is where the concept of discipline comes into play.
Yes, discipline is everything. Rich people have daily habits that they stick to, no matter how they feel. They don't wait for inspiration to strike. They just show up and do the work every single day.
And this changes everything. When you look at the morning routines of successful CEOs, they usually start very early. They spend the first few hours of the day reading, exercising, or planning. They don't start their day by scrolling through social media or reading negative news.
I read a statistic recently that said over 80% of wealthy people read for at least 30 minutes a day for self-improvement. Compare that to the average population, where many people don't read a single book after finishing school.
That is a shocking number, but it makes complete sense. Knowledge is like compound interest. The more you learn today, the more connections your brain can make tomorrow. It builds up over time until you have a massive advantage.
It is like building a library in your mind. Every book you read, every podcast you listen to adds a new tool to your toolkit. When a crisis happens, you don't panic because you have the mental tools to solve it.
Right. And another thing wealthy people do differently is how they choose their social circle. There is a famous saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The wealthy are very intentional about who they allow into their lives.
They look for people who inspire them, challenge them, and hold them accountable. If you hang out with 5 people who love to complain and spend all their money on weekends, you will probably become the 6th. But here's the surprising part. It is not just about networking with rich people to get favors. It is about absorbing their energy and their way of thinking. When you sit at a table with people who discuss big ideas, global investments, and future trends, your mind expands. You start to realize that things you thought were impossible are actually standard for them. It changes your baseline of what is normal. If your friends think earning a certain salary is the maximum possible, you will subconsciously stop there.
Exactly. Your environment acts like a thermostat. If it is set low, it will keep you cool. If it is set high, it will heat you up. Wealthy people constantly look for environments that raise their internal thermostat.
That makes a lot of sense. They don't want to be the smartest person in the room. If they are the smartest person, they know they are in the wrong room because they can't learn anything new from the people around them.
That requires a lot of humility, actually, to admit that you don't know everything and that you need to learn from others. Some people let their ego get in the way. They want to look like they have all the answers, so they never ask questions.
Ego is definitely an enemy of wealth. People with a poverty mindset often spend money to look rich to people they don't even like. They buy luxury items on credit just to get approval from others.
Meanwhile, actual millionaires are often invisible. They drive modest cars, wear simple clothes without giant logos, and live in comfortable but reasonable homes. They don't feel the need to prove their wealth to anyone. Their bank statement is proof enough for them.
Most people don't realize this because the media always shows the flashiest billionaires with private jets and yachts. But the vast majority of wealthy individuals are regular people who own local businesses, invest quietly, and live below their means.
That is a very liberating truth.
It means that becoming wealthy is accessible to anyone who can master their own behavior. It is not about living an extravagant lifestyle on television. It is about building security and freedom for yourself.
I love that perspective, Liam. It shifts the focus from vanity to sanity. It makes wealth creation feel like a peaceful journey, rather than a stressful race against your neighbors.
It really is a journey of personal development. Money is just a scorecard that reflects how much you have grown and how much value you have created. If you focus only on the money, you miss the entire point of the process.
Let's talk about another concept that wealthy people view differently: debt. For most people, debt is a trap. It is something they use to buy things that lose value immediately, like electronics or vacations. They end up paying high interest rates for years.
Yes, that is what we call bad debt. It takes money out of your pocket every single month. But what happened next was unexpected when I first studied financial literacy. I discovered that rich people actually love debt, but they use a completely different kind.
They use good debt, right? Can you explain how that works for our listeners who might be learning these English financial terms for the first time?
Of course. Good debt is debt that puts money into your pocket. For example, a wealthy investor might take a loan from a bank to buy an apartment building. They use the rent from the tenants to pay back the loan, cover expenses, and keep a profit. The debt actually helped them buy an asset that creates wealth.
Wow. So the bank's money is doing the heavy lifting while the investor reaps the rewards. That is a completely different way to look at borrowing. It requires a lot of financial education to do that safely, though.
Oh, absolutely. Without education, using debt is like playing with fire. You can easily get burned. That is why the wealthy invest so heavily in their own financial education before they invest in the actual markets.
They understand that the best investment you can ever make is in your own mind. No one can tax your knowledge and no one can steal your skills. If you lose all your physical wealth tomorrow but keep your mindset, you can build it all back.
That is exactly what happened to many famous entrepreneurs. They went bankrupt, lost everything, but within a few years, they were millionaires again. Because the machine that created the wealth was their brain, and that machine was still intact.
It proves that wealth is not a collection of things, it is a capability. It is a way of processing information and taking decisive action. Speaking of action, how do wealthy people handle decision-making?
They tend to make decisions quickly and change them very slowly, if at all. They trust their research and their instincts. On the other hand, people who struggle financially often make decisions very slowly because they are afraid, and then they change their minds quickly.
And this changes everything. When you vacillate and hesitate, opportunities pass you by. The market moves fast, and if you wait until everything is 100% perfect and certain, you will miss the train completely.
There is no such thing as perfect certainty in business or in life. Wealthy thinkers accept that there will always be a degree of uncertainty. They are comfortable with ambiguity. They make the best decision they can with the information they have, and then they adjust along the way.
That is a great lesson for learning English, too, don't you think? Many students wait until their grammar is perfect before they start speaking. They are so afraid of making a mistake that they stay silent for years.
That is a perfect parallel, Emma. If you wait for perfection, you will never speak. You have to be willing to sound a little messy at first, make mistakes, learn from them, and adjust your communication skills as you go.
Exactly. The mindset of a successful language learner is the same as the mindset of a successful entrepreneur. It requires patience, resilience, consistency, and the ability to handle uncomfortable situations without giving up.
And both fields require a focus on the long-term vision. You don't become fluent in English after 1 week, just like you don't become a millionaire after 1 day of hard work. It is the small actions, repeated daily, that lead to massive results.
But most people don't realize this because they live in a world of instant gratification. They want everything immediately. If they don't see results in a month, they assume the method doesn't work and they quit.
Quitting too early is the number one reason people fail to reach their financial or personal goals. The road to success is often boring and repetitive. It involves doing the same productive tasks over and over again, even when the excitement is worn off.
Wealthy people find comfort in that routine. They understand that consistency is the foundation of greatness. They don't need a cheerleader to keep them going. Their internal drive is enough to push them forward.
It really comes down to self-mastery. If you can control your emotions, your habits, and your thoughts, you can eventually control your financial destiny. Wealth is just an external reflection of internal discipline.
That is a very inspiring note to think about. It puts the power back into our own hands. We cannot control the global economy or the decisions of other people, but we can fully control our own mindset and how we react to the world.
Absolutely, Emma. It is all about personal responsibility. When you stop blaming external factors for your situation and start focusing on what you can improve, everything changes for the better.
Well, we have covered some incredible insights today. We talked about viewing money as a tool for leverage, embracing calculated risks, focusing on value instead of time, choosing your inner circle wisely, and the power of consistency.
It was a deep conversation, and I hope our global audience found it both educational and motivating. Changing your mindset takes time, but every single day is an opportunity to practice thinking like a wealthy person.
Thank you for joining us today on SmartSpeak Podcast.
If you enjoyed this conversation and learned something new, don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend.
Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep speaking English.
We'll see you in the next episode.
We'll see you in the next episode.